Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and I'm here with a quick Christmas card today. Hey everybody, so I'm using the stamp set Clear Jar Christmas Add Ons along with Noel, our fancy topper dies. And I went ahead and stamped and colored these images, stamped with ink on 3s, blackout ink, and colored with Copic markers. They'll all be listed on my blog. So I've got a piece of Basil Wax Lips cardstock, 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 to make a vertical fold A2 size card. Just using my Martha Stewart scoreboard and my Teflon bone folder, working on a Stampin' Up pad. And there we go. And I went ahead and I cut a piece of Doodlebug Home for the Holidays 12-inch paper line, 1/8 of an inch smaller than an A2 size card. And I'm going to stick that down with my ATG tape onto this card base. There we go. I figured since I was going to be using baubles, I'd use a background with baubles, which is kind of fun. I'm also using Doodlebug North Pole 12-inch cards, not cardstock, pattern paper. There we are. So now I have the red paper cut out using the fancy topper dies. Now I cut all my dies out using my Gemini machine. There we are. I also cut out white paper tray ink cardstock with the little layer piece for that fancy topper die. And I'm going to be doing some stamping now. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp onto this red background using my MISTI. And I'm stamping the Have a Ball this holiday season. And this stamp was previously like surgically altered. So I did some cutting to make this sentiment fit onto a card that I've done in the past. So what I'm doing is I'm lining it back up together so I can stick it down onto my MISTI. Now, you can do this. Your stamps will work perfectly fine after you've cut them. It's not a big deal. You just have to line them up again. Now, I'm using an anti-static powder tool on this red paper from Doodlebug. And my ink on 3 is Juicy Ink. I'll go ahead and I'm going to stamp that onto my card layer. Using a MISTI because it's kind of handy to use a MISTI. So I'm just making sure I get a really clean stamped image, which I did. And I'm going to go ahead and pull out my Ranger Fine Detail White Embossing Powder and a coffee filter. So I'm just going to sprinkle this powder on, flick off the extra, make sure I've got a really good coating on there. And then I'm going to pull out my Marvy Heat tool and melt this embossing powder. Now that's the nice thing about this white embossing powder. It really pops on this red background, which I quite like. So there we go. How pretty is that? So this is a really simple card, at least I thought. So I went ahead and I cut that paper out again with that paper tray ink white cardstock, and I layered it on the back of that fancy topper die just to give it a little bit more weight. Now I'm just going to add the little bottom half to this little fancy topper die, and that's what I'm going to put my image on. There we are. So now the reason why I cut an extra layer of that fancy topper die in white was because I wanted it to be nice and stable to pop up. Doodlebug paper is nice and thick, but it just adds a little bit more stability to add some cardstock behind it. So that's what I did. And now I'm going to pop it up using my 3M foam tape. There we are, using my Tim Holtz shears to cut them because it has the non-stick blade. And then I will pop this up in the center of my card. So like I said, this is a super simple card to make. Now, these clear jar add-ons are meant to go in our clear jar dies, but you can use them for other things, and that's what I'm showing you today. You can certainly create a card with them and not put them in the clear jar dies. So there we are. Now I'm going to line this up in the center of my background. And there we go. Now we're in business. So now I'm going to pop up these little baubles that I've colored with my Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. I'm just going to pop those onto the back. Now, all of the Copic colors will be listed on my blog that I used. I also used a secure white jelly roll pen and a number 10 to add some highlights, you know, just to make my images a little bit more lifelike. Now, whenever I color images, I usually cut them out using my Brother Scan and Cut with a 0.4 border, and that's what I did in this case. So, you know, there's a perfect little border around my stamped images. I can't fussy cut this well, so you know a machine did this for me. And there we are, like I said, adding all my little Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. I'm using some minis here too to fill in around the larger ones. And then I'm going to pull off all the backings once I get everything in place here, you know. And I'm kind of all thumbs with this because I'd never have any nails, but I do get them all off so I can put them onto my card base. So this was a super simple card today. This would be easy to recreate for Christmas. You know, the coloring was pretty simple. And if you have a Brother Scan and Cut, really simple to cut the images out. And there we are. So I went with a traditional red and green theme, kind of matching the paper that I have going on. Now I'm going to pop up this little extra ornament with one more Stampin' Up! Dimensional. So this card has quite a bit of dimension using my EK Success reverse tweezers. And there we go. So now I'm going to add a piece of cardstock to the inside. This is just some cheap Nina Solar White 65-pound cardstock cut at 4 by 5¼ inches, and I'm just adding it to the interior of the card with an with my ATG tape, sorry. And I'm going to add a strip of paper from that same Doodlebug paper lines. I can't remember which one. It's either Home for the Holidays or North Pole. It's just a 1-inch strip, and I'm going to add that to the bottom of this white paper just to give it a little bit of interest, and then I'll cut off the overhang with my scissors. So pretty easy peasy stuff. There we go. So now I'm going to be adding some Nuvo crystal drops in Simply White. They're kind of my favorite. And what I do is I sprinkle them around, kind of straddling the sentiment, straddling the images, just to draw the eye in. And it's just pretty. I didn't want to add any more competing colors. That's my little chart beside me, you know, so I can choose what color to use. And I'm just flattening out my drops. I'm going to add a couple more in a second here in the upper left-hand corner. So yeah, I have a little chart with all of them, you know, squeezed out on there so I can sort of choose what color I want to use. And I kind of played around with maybe using some greens, but I decided to use white just to not add another competing color in there. And then there we go. So thank you so much for stopping by. To be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, check out some inspiration, maybe hop on over to the store and get your hot little hands on some of these products. So thanks for stopping by and watching my videos, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.